Now, it's almost like you single-handedly want to change, say, the landscaping of Nova Scotia, that kind of thing. Do you have any support?
Yes.
Somebody, people that write up your reports, people that do your handle your phone calls, or you do all manner of.
Yeah, there's a method to the madness.
Okay.
I work in Halifax, and I have a staff of 9. There's a place that you may have heard of called Cape Breton. There's a staff in Cape Breton. It's made up of only 3. Why? Because I knew the government would not give me $2 million. They wouldn't give me $2 million. So I understood I had some ceilings. But what I said to the folks, if they want me to do this job, they're going to have to do it as a growth strategy. So on the map that you've got, there's nothing in what we call the southwest of the province. So the hope is that in the future, we would have another office in the southwest, and another part of the province we would have, it's called North Chignecto, another 3. So the strategy, year, you build and hold, build and hold, build and hold. So now I got Cape Breton. Now I got to try to work on another mini office in the southwest. My allies are other government workers. My allies are other government workers that fall into one of those categories. Either at the top, they're milling managers, or down the bottom. I have allies, but not enough. But I'm getting there. And then it's the community. The challenge is also the community to find its voice, because they're afraid. They've been promised so many things in the past that they're afraid sometimes to say, I don't know, Wayne, whether or not I want to go your way, because I may not be able to get there. And what I mean by that is, in Nova Scotia, and it may be the same in your communities, your last name will give you currency up, or it'll give you currency down. And my last name, and also where I'm from, I've got some currency because my family has never ever been abusing their title. My family has never done anything other than try to help. So when I've gone to some of these small communities, people know my mother, who used to be a teacher, and the first question they'd ask me, where are you from? And they're testing me, where are you from? And I'd say, I'm from Beachville. Then the second question is, who is your father and who is your mother? And because I say those names, especially the older group, they lean back and say, okay, I'll give you 5 minutes. And if I can get the 5 minutes, usually some of these small community groups, they'll say, okay, you said you're going to come back in 2 months? We'll see. Because other groups have not come back in 2 months. So I show back up, and they're saying, hey, you kept your promise. And if I don't do that, then I'm breaking the trust of the community. And when I say to government, you got to get up from your desk and come with me, and we're going to go to Lincolnville to talk about transportation. And the staff worker will say, I've never been down there before. Can I meet you someplace so that we go in together? Because some government people have fear, because they never got up from behind your desk. And it's the same thing when you think about urban and rural. And I had the same situation when I worked overseas. Government people in the cities don't really like to go to the rural areas. And if they go, they want to stay in a hotel, they want to do this and that, and they look at the watch. I got to get back within 4 or 5 hours, so it's a quick in. I took a look, I'm going back to the city. So I'm trying to break that kind of mold with some of my allies. They got to spend time. How are you?
Well said. I was just imagining, as the link person between the communities
Yes.
and the government,
Yes.
do you usually get conflicts of interest along the line
Yes.
where you are stuck? Do I talk for the community? Do I talk for the government?
Yeah.
Do you get that dilemma?
I used to, when I first started out, because it was so new. The government said, we want to create this Office of African Nova Scotian Affairs, but we have nobody that could write the plan. Here, write the plan. So I wrote the plan, and they said, we got nobody to implement it. You implement it. And I said, not unless you give me this. And they did. So for me, what I have to do is to take whatever the government is saying is their mantra. Is anybody here working for the provincial government other than me right now? Okay. Well, here's what tends to happen in government. The government puts out these announcements. We're going to meet this target. We're going to meet this target. And we're going to meet this target. And so everybody below in the middle has to meet those targets. It could be health, education, clean water, economic development, doesn't really matter, but they set these targets. So all the worker bees have to try to get there. What I try to do is take whatever the government is saying is their platform and figure out a way to come back to, whoops, equitable, equitable. I try to take whatever the government is saying is to come back to this. So if the government said, oh, we want to make sure that maternal health is improved, equitable delivery of service. We want to make sure that there's new economic opportunities in community X, equitable delivery of service. So I try to, in a good way, I try to manipulate whatever the government says out of its mouth to say, you said it, not me. So here's what we got to do if you want to reach that platform. The community, though, they don't have enough knowledge about how government works. And as you know, if you're in NGO world, if you put the right kind of pressure and you line up the right kind of stuff, the government will want to be next to take the photograph, say, hey, we're working with the community. They'll love that, but you do all the work. So what I try to do is to get the community to understand the nuance. Don't wait for government. Don't wait for me. Do it yourself. And I'll give you a perfect example which brought about this, the little booklet that you have. In your environments, are there designations for things that are historical, where the government says, oh, we got to make this historical, so they'll give it a plaque, they'll give it a monument, they'll do all this kind of stuff because they want to have recognition. In our community, you will find very few places of recognition in these communities. You won't find statues, you certainly won't find any markers. So 4 years ago, I was talking with somebody from UNESCO, and they said that, why don't you try this tactic, Wayne? Why don't you decide that you don't wait even for me to the community, and you try to create what's called sites of significance. So over the last 2 years, the office has been saying to small community groups, do not wait for somebody to come along to tell you that this is a historical building or that's a historical place. Do it yourself, because that's where you'll be able to have your own sense of empowerment. So what we've done, we've developed a template around what would constitute a site of significance. And at least 5 or 6 of the community groups that we work with, they said exactly, why should we have to wait for the folks from government to come to tell us that that's a historical building? We'll do it ourselves. I mean, the plaque may not be made of gold, and it may, be locally made, but at least we can claim it as our site of significance. So right now, in the government, I'm getting people in heritage and culture, the unit that I'm linked into, looking over my shoulder and saying, oh, what are you doing? And I'm saying, I'm allowing the community to determine their site of significance. And the first thing they say, oh, well, do we have to bring the Heritage Act into play? That's up to you. You go talk to the community. And if the community says no, leave it alone. If the community says yes, then help them get that designation. But we can't wait. And I'm saying now, from my community side, because I'm not in government, that's what I have to do. And so that pushes back against even my own government to say, I cannot wait for these places to be historically designated. They will do it themselves with sites of significance. Yes?
My name is Lisa.
How are you?
Fine,
I'm okie dokie.
What are the challenges of African Canadian women in Nova Scotia?
Oh, my. There's quite a few of them, and I have to make sure that we're really clear here. Since the time of Matthew DaCosta, and there's a test at the end, No, there's no test. But if anybody's in this province, and I don't care what country they're from, whether they were born here at 5 generations, 8 generations, 20 generations, or if they just came yesterday, I really don't care how you separate people out. They fall under my big umbrella that says you're of African descent. So, in this province, those that have been here the longest, let's say, for 4 or 5 generations, they have had a problem breaking into the system that allows them to go up as opposed to across. In the provincial government structure of close to 10,000 people, there's only one woman who has the designation of being senior. One. For the people that are in the city of Halifax, you will find only one person on any kind of decision-making level, and that's kind of prescriptive because it's only in one department. There hasn't been the opportunity to advance the cause of women collectively. It's been here and there. When my office came on board, I said, I don't want people to be brought into my office and only work for 6 months. That's not going to work. They have to be there permanently. And people in government who run finances are crunching numbers, saying, do you realize that you're going to have at least 8 people, because they didn't include me, that are going to now be permanent? Yes, I recognize that. Most of my staff are female. The challenge has been the larger society, education-wise, opportunity-wise for jobs. They've not looked at the black woman as a positive opportunity to grow their organization. So one of the challenges is, in my opinion, is to draw strength in numbers. And our office did a quiet little building of that within the provincial government. So now there's about 50 women. They're all in different levels of government. They collectively have come together and they've said to the hiring department, which is the Public Service Commission, no more flat line. You've got to create ways for us to go like this. And we now have what we would call a champion at the top level, helping the women get there. So in our province, we have what they call deputy ministers, and there's 2 deputy ministers, both female, who are white, who have said, we believe in what you guys are doing, this collective of 40 women, and we're going to try to create training opportunities. So the hope is that they'll be able to shoot through. My mother wanted to be a nurse, but she was denied. So she became a teacher. And you'll have people who will be in the nursing profession, and they'll say, they want me to work certain shifts because they know that if I work other shifts, people will not feel comfortable to have me at their bedside. Color. And it does raise its head. Honestly, it does. But I think the women in our community are so strong that one of the reasons why we've been able to survive is because they have not given up. And one of the reasons why the men have a difficulty is because we're still suffering the trauma of being enslaved and being told that we can't make that transition from being brute force to using our intelligence, which is a lie. But that's what we're faced with, is trying to break through those barriers that are invisible. It's not a law that says a woman can't do it. It's all those soft things that are built up around it. And it's honestly, it's so hard to fight because you can't really grab it. I can't really grab it. Hey, hello over there. Can I just get her? Yeah.
Me?
Sure, why not?
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I just thinking how your organization, like exactly service, is
Uh-huh.
in help to the community.
Yeah.
How your organization make equity service in help to the community.
Yeah. We're part of government, and so every government department, I have permission to go over and talk to them about things that they should be doing. So what we've done, we've tried to pick a couple of health issues that we think come back to the equitable delivery of service. I'll give you two examples. Newborn babies in Nova Scotia now can go after a sickle cell testing. And sickle cell is a condition that usually affects certain peoples, not all peoples. And 8 years ago, if you tried to bring that to a doctor's attention that, oh, can you test my baby for sickle cell? The doctors would say, what? They weren't intelligent, or, no, sorry, shouldn't say that. They didn't have enough information about what sickle cell was. But now Nova Scotia's got more newcomers, new Canadians coming that are not coming from Europe. They're coming from Africa. They're coming from the Middle East. They're coming from the Caribbean. And so this province had to recognize that there's different ways that they have to do the medicine. So for 3 years, the office was working with the Department of Health to get them first to understand that it is an issue. It costs $1.15 to do the testing. That could save a life, or it could help to get the family to understand how to manage this as they come forward. Because we've done that, we're not taking the credit. We're stepping back, and we've pushed a community group out there to say, give credit to that community group because that's who we worked with. The other thing that we've done with health is black men very rarely go to the doctor. Men in general don't go to the doctor. So we had an opportunity to bring people up from the United States who had a program called Project Brotherhood. And Project Brotherhood was about black men's health. So if I go to the black men's health clinic, it's a dream still, but we're getting there, it's going to mean that I'm going to meet other black men, and there's easy conversation that can happen. Easier than going to another support group where somebody may not be of the same cultural entity. That's not to say that you always have to separate, but sometimes you have to if you want to have a sense of safety. And you can do the same thing for people who approach things from a gender or from ability, disability. Because you have to have some understanding about what the problem is. So last year, we have enough money from one of the departments, Department of Health, to explore what would black men's health look like in some of the clinics that are operating now. So those are really small steps, because if you work in government, you have to have a long view. You can't expect government to flip and work as they do in the private sector, turn around really quick. So I have to have patience, but the community has to have a little bit of different patience to say, I believe you. And that's why those community groups that I mentioned, they've been with us from the beginning. We've took their issue, brought it to government, and slowly we've been working through it. Is that okay? What time? How much time do we have?
Yeah, it's about 11:17. I'm not sure at what time.
We just conclude on it if there are no questions, because it says 15 minutes, they will come back.
Yeah.
I got 3 questions and I got to hand this over. So these are quick question, quick answer. We'll go 1, 2, 3. Sorry.
Just quickly.
Yeah.
How does it affect your job now that you've changed government?
Oh, I have, so far, as of Tuesday, I'm still in the position that I was. But some of the people that are around me, they have moved and they have changed. So right now, the programs that we want to do, they're kind of like going a little bit slow until we get clearer signals from some of the folks that we're connected to. That's the political side of the equation. But there's a line, and I make sure that my minister doesn't come over to my line, and I make sure I don't go over to his line. So I'm not going to go out and campaign and say, oh, these guys are good, these guys are bad. I have to know what line I'm on because I'm a government employee. Yeah?
I just want to know, what is the total population of the blacks community, first
Yep.
of all.
Yep.
And secondly, how far do you deal with the individual cases of the
Yep.
black community, and what's the
Yep.
other way that you are seeing?
Okay. The national census out of Canada says that there are 19,000 African Nova Scotians. I disagree, because I don't agree with the way that they go about getting the information. I think the figure is around close to 22. Second question, we try to work with community organizations individually, but then we try to bring them collectively. Because you can have 4 organizations in one community, and they're all competing, probably for a same set of interests. And so my challenge is to try to get them to see goal identification being the same. If I have an individual person who wants me to help them, I try to connect them to other parts of government, as opposed to taking on a champion for every individual in the province. I wouldn't be able to survive.
And what's your tracking the change or the outcome?
We're tracking the change in the outcome by finding out how many community organizations are now registered, because a lot hadn't been registered before. We're trying to look now to say, in a community with 4 or 5 groups, are they working closer together now than they had been before? So we're doing some small baseline work to make that happen. I'm sorry for asking your questions so late. I'm ready.
It's all right, thanks.
Okay. The last thing I got to do, because I know we're going to rush, is this is my theory. And my theory is that if you look at this map that's coming around, there's this continuum about doing community work inside of government. What I would want at the end, when I decided I'm no longer going to be working for government, anybody else drop anything? Yeah, everybody's got one? What I want to do before I decide to pass on the torch, I want to move this community engagement continuum up to, I would like to get it to empowerment. So the community right now, in some way, shape, or form, are in one of those particular boxes. So my job is to try to move some of these community organizations along this continuum, so that when they have something, government comes to them, or they go to government, but it's a lot more equitable than it is now, where in some cases it's just being shoved down their throats. Oh, I'm sorry. And I need some for this other group, so I better hold some back. So I wish I had more time so we could shoot the breeze and have a coffee, have tea, because I don't know anything about what you guys are doing. Oh, that's...
So we will remain seated here, and the other guests will come in.
Yeah, do I get a chance to come back?
Sure. We'll arrange for that.